Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book. In today's podcast, I'll be addressing the subject of how a narcissist can turn you, empath, into a narcissist as well. Now, a lot of people may be worried about hearing this because they feel safe knowing that they're empathic, even if they're codependent. Like I keep saying, codependents also have a high level of empathy, which makes them people pleasers and stick around to help, support and tolerate narcissists. However, lots of people get comfortable believing that because I'm empathic, I will never be like a narcissist. I will never be like my parents, my husband, my wife, my children, my uncles, my aunties, my colleagues, my friends, whoever it is in your life who is narcissistic and you're in a narcissistic relationship with. Trust me when I tell you that their mission is to turn you into them if you're not careful. If you lack self-awareness and you're not careful, you will find yourself, you might resonate with this. If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, it doesn't matter who it is. If you are in a relationship with that person, you will find that over time, you start taking on their traits. You start behaving like them as well. And I will explain all of this in detail in this podcast. So I just wanted to address this subject because it's so important. A lot of people come to me, as clients, and they say to me, I'm here for this session because I believe I'm a narcissist. And they're not a narcissist at all. But because they've spent such a long time living with a narcissist, and the narcissist has an opportunity to brainwash this person into believing that they are a narcissist because their traits start to rub off on them, you now believe that you're the abuser. And this is really dangerous for your iman, your mental health, your self-esteem. It's going to make you feel so ashamed of yourself and you're going to hate yourself the same way a narcissist does. So as always, just before I jump into the content, please do like, share and subscribe to this channel. Please share this podcast with anyone whom you believe could really benefit from the knowledge that I give. And inshallah, it will help save someone's mental health out there, and you'll get the reward, inshallah, for doing so. So, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, again, if you haven't listened to my previous podcast, you really need to make sense of everything that I say in the follow-up podcast, because I can't keep repeating everything. So you really need to have a full understanding of the foundational knowledge that I provide about the Qareen, about the shaitan, about the angels, about everything, about us as human beings, in order for you to make sense of personality disorders. So I've already taught you that the narcissist, the narcissistic person, the person who has NPD, a full-on disorder, is someone who is like that every day. So we all have narcissistic traits within us. Every single one of us has them. However, it's those empaths who have a higher level of nafs, who, they elevate more towards the nafs al-mutma'inna. They have more of a hold, more of a control over their Qareen, over their nafs. You've got to learn about the Qareen to understand what I'm talking about. Your Qareen will try to control your nafs because your nafs is your decision-making hub. Right? Your nafs is the one who is going to be accountable on the day of judgment, because your nafs is the one who makes decisions between right and wrong. Do I do this or do I do that? Do I follow the good path or do I sin? So your Qareen will take full advantage of your nafs when your boundaries are lowered. So if your boundaries are lowered and your ego is always inflated and you chase your desires, your Qareen, your jinn devil who accompanies you from the moment you're born until the moment you die, that Qareen is going to take advantage and really work so hard to have complete control over you. So someone who is narcissistic or someone who is a psychopath or a sociopath, these people are controlled by their Qareen. And people who are empaths, high-level empaths, they have control over their Qareen. And those who are codependents, they fluctuate between sometimes having control and sometimes not having control. But a narcissistic person is always controlled by their Qareen. So because we know this is from the teachings of Islam that I've already gone through. I've broken down the Quran verses, I've broken down the hadiths to explain to you how the Qareen has a huge impact on our lives if we allow it to control us. Okay, so that's how people have all these psychopathic disorders, because you're controlled by a demonic spirit. Okay, and this demonic spirit follows the shaitan. And when this demonic spirit follows the shaitan, he's going to take orders from the shaitan. He's going to have the spirit of the shaitan. He's going to have the same motives and missions of the shaitan. So a person who is a narcissist with a full-on disorder is someone, like I said, who is fully controlled. Now, that doesn't mean that the person who has full control over their Qareen can maintain that strength. Because I want you to just imagine for a second that the Qareen is like a wild horse from the desert. It's not tamed, it's never been trained, nothing. It's a wild horse, and you have to train that wild horse. So the empath possesses a very high level of strength and power to be able to tame that horse. A horse that's never been tamed before. So can you imagine how difficult that must be? How much iman you need to gather to do that? How much mental strength you need to gather? How much physical strength you need to gather to, prevent yourself from, committing sins that are physical, committing sins that are mental, all of those things that can happen to you. Like, for example, a mental sin could be you thinking badly of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It takes a lot of strength to be able to have control over your Qareen, and that's what makes the empath so powerful. Someone who possesses a nafs al-mutma'inna is the most powerful person because of his or her ability to maintain control over that Qareen. And it takes a lot to maintain that control. Because what can happen is you can get tired. You can get tired, your arms will get tired, you'll drop your hands, the reins will drop, and the wild horse will realise that actually he or she's dropped the reins a bit. I'm gonna make a run for it. So that is why no one's perfect. This is why the human being is flawed. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not expect us to be able to hold that level of strength and power 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. It's not possible for a human to do it. We're going to have days where those reins will be lowered and the horse will realise he's tired or she's tired. This is when I take advantage. They've given up. They've given up hope. They're just too tired to keep going because that empath is either around wrong people, you're in the company of people who weaken your iman and weaken that power. The Prophet Muhammad said, you need to be in the right company of people in order to maintain your iman and maintain your physical strength and maintain your mental clarity. Because if you're with the wrong people, if you're with people who drag you down and they make you stupid and they make you take very bad decisions in your life, and you become unhealthy around those people, you might even gain weight around those people, you stop going to the gym, you stop taking care of your health, you're eating badly, you're taking on their bad habits. If you're doing that, then you are now contributing towards your weakness in holding those reins for yourself to control that wild horse. So company is extremely important. You'll also get calamities and hardships and traumas that will come into your life. No one will be 100% healed. I'm going to do another podcast, inshallah, about what it means to be a healed human being, a healed Muslim. What is healing? How do we know we're healed? Another podcast, inshallah, for that, it's coming. But human beings can never be in a state of being healed 24/7, 7 days a week. It can't be. It's not possible because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us. He's already told us, you're going to have these hardships. You're going to experience traumas and calamities and losses until the day you die. So we will always be in a constant cycle of trauma, hardships, trying to get over it, trying to heal, trying to this, trying to that. So it's not possible for someone to always be healed. You heal from something and then something else comes in your path that will create a new trauma. It'd be a death of a loved one, for example. So if you do not maintain a high level of iman and tawakkul, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a good perspective on Islamic teachings and good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you do not maintain those by keeping good company, by being around those who support you in your traumas and hardships, by reminding you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, reminding you that Allah loves you, reminding you that this is a part of being human, this is the dunya, this is the state of this life. We have to go through these hardships. If you're in the wrong company, you will not be able to maintain at least a basic minimum level of strength that is needed to control that wild horse. And that is why when an empath is in the presence of a narcissist all the time, because you're married to them, or your parents are narcissistic, or your siblings are narcissistic, or you're at work with narcissistic colleagues, you're not going to help yourself. Your iman's going to take a hit. Everything will take a hit. And you'll find yourself, because you're unable to, to maintain control of that wild horse, you will find yourself being controlled and run away with that wild horse. And that wild horse will take you in all different directions, because he knows that you have no strength to take back the reins and direct it in the direction that you want. He knows you can't do that, so he takes full advantage. And that's why a lot of people slip. This is why a lot of codependents slip into major sins regularly. Their iman is always up and down, and not like the empath. So when the empath's iman is low, it doesn't hit rock bottom. When the iman of the empath descends, it descends to a shallow level, whereas the codependent's iman will descend to a very deep level. So the codependent will always be fluctuating between high iman and very low iman. That's how you know you're codependent, because you can't maintain a plateau of iman like the empath can. And the narcissist is always in low iman. Even when you see them practicing, going to the masjid, they're praying, they're fasting Ramadan, they're fasting Ashura, they're fasting on Arafat Day. They do all of these things, but they still abuse their families at home, even when they're fasting, even when they're praying. They still come home with verbal abuse. They still come home and beat their kids, because the state of the heart of a narcissist is not healthy. It's not connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a good way. Their reasons for practicing Islam is not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's for, maintaining a good image. It's for showing that they're Muslim. It's for, maybe deceiving people. There are other reasons for them being practicing, but they're not true believers, because again, if you're a true believer, you wouldn't abuse people. You wouldn't be abusing people like this, because you would know that there's a day of judgment coming. If you were a true believer in the day of judgment coming one day, and that death can come to you at any time, you would not be abusing people left, right and centre like you do. That's just one of the basic minimum requirements of being a believer, that you believe everyone's going to die, and it could be any time, and that you believe there's a day of judgment coming. You're going to be accountable for everything. You think that narcissists think that they can get away with everything in this dunya because their iman is not there in the day of judgment. It's not really truly there. And that's why I can honestly say to you that the majority of narcissists either operate on, I would say, a 5% level of iman, or no iman at all. Because their behavior shows that. Their behavior indicates to people that they're not true believers in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to believe in, and what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ tells us to believe in, because he's meant to be our role model. So if he's not your role model, then who is? And so that's why in Islam, marriage is so important, because you're choosing a specific person to help you in your life journey, right? You're helping yourself by choosing someone who is going to be a great supporter for you in your life journey when you go through grief and hardships and calamities and traumas and, just really bad days. You're going to get really bad days. So it is a total waste when people just focus on someone who is good looking as a marriage partner or wealthy. None of that's going to benefit you. What's going to benefit you, it's great to have them. I'm not saying it's not great to have them. But what I'm saying is that the priority always has to be, does this person give me peace and comfort? Does this person help me maintain my iman when I hit rock bottom? Does this person help me to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever I have a hardship? Because that's the whole point of marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with a partner who can help us on our journey back to Jannah. That's the whole point of marriage. If you're choosing a marriage partner knowing that person is narcissistic, or knowing that person is a drama queen, or they've already shown you red flags and you're still jumping into that relationship, choosing to be with this person for life, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up to one day be controlled by your Qareen, because the person who you are spending most of your time with is controlled by their Qareen. So not only are you going to be dealing with your wild horse, you've got to be dealing with their wild horse as well. You've got to be holding the reins of yours and the reins of theirs to protect yourself. And that's really exhausting. That's why everyone who's married to a narcissist or lives with a narcissist is so damn exhausted. And they've got every health problem under the sun, because you don't realise you are dealing with two wild horses, and it's already difficult enough to deal with your own. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our own Qareen to deal with. When you marry a narcissist, or you choose to live with a narcissist, you are choosing to take on their Qareen, because who you're married to is their Qareen and not the human part of them. I'll tell you this seriously. You are dealing with their Qareen most of the time. So can you imagine how burnt out you're going to be, and exhausted and depressed, and how you're going to develop so many health issues because you're dealing with that person's Qareen as well as your own? So not only are you trying to help them get better, you're struggling yourself. You're drowning too. You're both in the middle of the ocean. You're trying to help a drowning person, but you're also drowning because you've got nothing to cling on to. You've got nothing to save you. And so the wrong company, being around narcissists, will turn you into a narcissist eventually. Eventually. The longer you stay with them. Now, it's by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He saves you. That He will save you before you develop a full-on disorder. Some people say that all narcissists will always, have troubled childhoods. People with NPD, it starts from childhood. No, it doesn't. Most people, yes. But if you're an empath or a codependent, and you stay with a narcissist for a very long time, and you don't know how to protect yourself, and you don't have the right boundaries to protect yourself, you will turn into a narcissist as well. And I'll explain how. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always save the empath, because the codependent chooses to stay in misery. It's the codependents who are in 20-year marriages with these people, not the empaths. The empaths, because they have self-esteem and self-awareness, they have a higher level of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saves them because they are aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's signs. They know when Allah is trying to save them and get them out of a situation. They know this. For example, someone might be in a very toxic marriage and they'll question themselves and they'll say, why am I in this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not make marriage for us to suffer. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted for me. Allah wanted something beautiful for me. I'm out of here. So those signs that something is toxic motivate an empath to leave a situation. Whereas a codependent, because of their need to be a hero, because of their need to be the savior and be the people pleaser, they stay in a relationship with that hope things will change. With that hope that they can be the ones to make a massive change in their marriage and in the narcissistic person. Because they feel sorry for that person, or because they love that person so much. So the codependent will stay, and they stay only to become a narcissist at the end of it, and only to destroy their health and their life and everything associated with their iman and who they used to be. It will all be destroyed. That's why you find codependents after 10, 20 years, they are completely different people. They're nasty people. Because they're so bitter and resentful of everything that was taken away from them, but they feel like they realised it too late. They woke up to it too late, so now they might as well just live with it. And in order for them to live with it, by that time, they have to be like the narcissist. And they turn into the narcissist for survival, because it's the only way to deal with the narcissist is to become like them. And then it becomes even more toxic because narcissists can't live with each other. So it's one toxic, massive mess. I'm going to do another podcast, inshallah, about what happens when two narcissists marry each other. Because that in itself is insane. A disastrous relationship. So let's go back to the Qareen. Okay, let's go back to the Qareen for a moment and understand that the Qareen has the same motive as the shaitan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah An-Nisa, verse 119, وَلَأُضِلَّنَّهُمْ وَلَأُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ وَلَأَمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُبْتِكُنَّ آذَانَ الْأَنْعَامِ وَلَأَمُرَنَّهُمْ فَلَيُغَيِّرُنَّ خَلْقَ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَتَّخِذِ الشَّيْطَانَ وَلِيًّا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ خَسِرَ خُسْرَانًا مُبِينًا. So the shaitan says to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will mislead them. I will mislead all of mankind. And I will tempt them with sinful desires. And I will command them so that they slit the ears of cattle. And I will command them so they will change the creation of Allah. And whoever takes Satan as an ally instead of Allah has certainly sustained a clear loss. Now here, the shaitan refers to the slitting the ears of cattle because back in pre-Islamic Arabia, the pagan Arabs used to slit the ears of livestock, so cattle, sheep, camels, and they used to sacrifice them for their gods whom they used to worship, all the idols. So they used to mark the sacrifices by slitting their ears, like this is for the pagan gods. So this is something that used to come from the shaitan. So, the shaitan's promise here is that I will misguide them. I will misguide them. And that is the whole purpose of the Qareen. So when you look at anyone narcissistic in your life, you will see that they just don't want you to be close to Allah. They want you to fall into sin. They will ask you to do things against Islam. They will ask you to do things or listen to things or watch things that are against Islam. They might even ask you to understand Islam in a completely incorrect manner because you understanding Islam in that manner makes you hate Islam. And that's why that's why we have spiritual abuse, because when Islam is used to justify crimes and abuse and domestic violence and all these kinds of things, and narcissists misquote Quran verses or hadith to justify their horrible actions, it can make someone hate Islam. So if they brainwash you into believing that what they're doing is correct or what they're doing is permissible in Islam, what's going to happen? You're going to lose your iman. And this verse is very significant because you can apply it to 2023, as this verse was applied to, the pre-Islamic pagan Arabs. However, if you apply it to modern day society now in the UK, we don't have people praying to pagan idols, in our ummah. We don't have people who are slitting the ears of camels and sacrificing them to other gods. We might do in other parts of the world, but I'm talking about, in the Western world, America, Canada, the UK, France, we don't have that now in our ummah. So we can apply this to what's already happening today. So it's people worshipping money, people worshipping women, people worshipping, celebrities and, and their ego and all that kind of stuff. People are sacrificing their health and their life to have a luxurious lifestyle. People are sacrificing their iman and their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a lot of money and to have a lot of women. You see this all the time. So just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned something specific from a different era doesn't mean that we can't apply it to, the modern day society that we're in today. So that is what the application of Islamic teachings means. You have to apply it to modern day society because it's a book, it's a guide for us until the Day of Judgment. So it's going to be applicable for every generation until the last day. So the shaitan tells us here that he will mislead us, he will misguide us, and he will tempt us to commit sins. And he will also tempt us to change the creation of Allah. I'm seeing this a lot now. Look at all of the surgeries people are doing just so that they can follow trends, beauty trends in society. Guys, women all look the same now. Women all look the same because of all the surgeries that they're doing. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He condemns this. He doesn't like it. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us all to be unique. And so when people, go out of their way to completely, change the shape of their nose or change the shape of their lips and, break bones so that they can be tall. I saw a procedure the other day on YouTube. Someone sent it to me, a man who wanted to be taller, and they broke his bones. They broke his shins so that they could insert some rod to make him taller. And it cost him about $100,000 to do it. Like, the world is going mad. The world is actually going mad because so much emphasis is being put on the physical, how people look. Husbands are complaining that their wives don't have lips like this woman or whatever. And women are rushing to go and get it done to please their husbands. And husbands are saying, this is halal because you're doing it for me and I'm your gateway to paradise. If I want you to have surgeries, then it's halal because you're doing it for your husband. This all comes from the Qareen. This is all satanic mission. The more we change in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, the more we're ruled by the Qareen. Even if you look at it on a bigger scale, like GM crops and lab grown meat that's happening now, all of that is changing khalq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're changing, you're playing with genetics, you're playing with what's natural. So if it's unnecessary for you to be going through these procedures, it's something that is disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why it was specifically mentioned in the Quran. I will make them change your creation. People will not be satisfied with your creation. I will change it because it's not going to be good enough for them. I'm going to make them feel like who they are and what you've created is not good enough. And they can do a better job. Their surgeons can do a better job. All of these clinics can do a better job. All of this comes from the Qareen, and it comes from you living with a narcissist for a very long period of time. You will find codependent women go through surgeries and everything to please their narcissistic husband. It's never the other way around. A woman who has a very empathic husband who is so loving, caring, kind, if she's not a narcissist, she won't be going through all of that. Because he will always tell her she's good enough. She's beautiful the way she is. She doesn't have to change anything. He will build up her self-esteem and confidence. Women who live with men who completely destroy their self-confidence will get every surgery done under the sun in order to feel better about themselves. Now, I'm not saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is displeased with you if you've already done it. I understand why a lot of women do it. Because when you're living with a narcissist, when you're enduring narcissistic abuse, you will resort to these things. And inshallah, Allah will forgive you for that. But I just want to highlight this fact that it's the shaitan that makes you do that. And it's the shaitan in him, the Qareen in him that makes you do that. Because again, you're dealing with your Qareen and his Qareen. The orders that you get from him all come from his Qareen. So this verse shows you clearly that living with someone who is ruled by their satanic Qareen is going to make you do all of these things. And Allah says, and surely those who have taken Satan as an ally instead of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have certainly sustained a clear loss. And the first step you take in doing this is by choosing the wrong person to marry. Choose someone who is godly, God conscious. You've got to choose someone who is not ruled by their Qareen. Because I promise you're the one who's going to suffer the most. The narcissist doesn't suffer. The narcissist enjoys seeing you hit rock bottom and completely deplete you of everything good that you have. They enjoy it. They love it. They're not suffering like you're suffering. Narcissists suffer in a different way. Narcissists actually suffer from intense jealousy when they are around someone who is empathic. They love to be with their own kind for short periods of time. That's why when they cheat on codependent partners, especially codependents, it's always with another narcissist because they need breaks to be with their own kind every now and again. It suffocates them. It makes them feel really sick and inferior, and it gives them too many negative emotions to be around empaths because not only do you show them who they are not, but you also make them feel disgusted at how nice you are with someone who doesn't deserve it. Go back to my previous podcast, the one before this. It explains it in detail. So the narcissist will be jealous of the empath, especially the empath. The codependent, not so much, because the narcissist can quickly turn a codependent into a narcissist. I'll explain in a moment. But the narcissist is very jealous and envious of the empath. And what's the difference between jealousy and envy? Jealousy is wanting what you don't have. It's, you want it for yourself. What someone else has, you want it for yourself. Envy is when you wish that that person doesn't have it at all. So it's completely taken from them. So not only are you jealous that they have it and you don't have it, you also want it taken away from them. And this is what narcissists work on. From the moment they meet you, they are jealous and envious. They want your empathy, but because they can't attain your level of empathy, because their level of nafs is so low, they want to take it from you. They want your level of iman, but they're not there yet. Their nafs is not at that required level yet to have the level of iman that you have, so they want to take it from you. They want your physical health. They want your happiness. They want your joy. They are thieves of joy. They will take all of it from you because you having it is a constant reminder to them that they are horrible people who have no heart, no feelings, no emotions. Of course they have emotions, but when they see you as an empath, they don't know how you can be so kind and so loving and how you can have people love you so much. They hate that. They really hate that. So they want to take it from you, so you feel the same way that they do. And the way that they feel is just self-hate and self-loathing. They feel that all the time. They hate themselves. They hate who they are. They will never admit it to you. But the narcissist hates himself, hates herself. They are never happy with who they are. That's why no matter how beautiful they are, they still have to get surgeries. They still use filters on their pictures even after surgeries. And they still post 100 selfies a week. Because they're not happy with who they are. If they were truly confident, narcissists who believe they're beautiful would not distort all their pictures and use filters and everything like that. They wouldn't go for all those surgeries. They don't have that confidence. They hate themselves. This is the only thing that can make them feel better. Having money, having flashy cars, having beauty, having surgeries, having a luxury life, having a high status job, a career, all of that makes them happy temporarily. So when they have all of that, and then you come along as an empath or codependent and you show them, well, you've got all of that, but I'm still a nice person. You can't be this nice person. They hate that. They hate that you still manage to have what they can't have. Even if they have everything that you don't have. Even if they have all the money in the world and they're much better looking than you. They don't look at everything that they have that you don't have. They look at what you have that they don't have. And they want it. They want it. And if they can't have it, they'll destroy it. They'll destroy it. And this is why so many people who live with narcissists start to hate themselves over time. They start to doubt themselves all the time. They believe that they're the abuser. They believe that they're the narcissist. They are now turning into the narcissist. They are now taking on all of the traumas and the issues of the narcissist. The self-loathing, the self-hate, the lack of iman. You don't even have the will to get up for Fajr anymore. You don't have the will to pray tahajjud anymore. You skip the voluntary fast. You skip loads of things that you used to do. Because your soul is depleted. You're feeling depleted. And that depletion comes from them stealing it all. They're stealing it. And even though they can't do anything with it, even though they can't have it for themselves and implement it in themselves, they just burn it. They burn your empathy. Because a normal person, a healthy person, they will admire your empathy and implement it in their own lives. I want to be like that person. I want to be kind like that person. I love how empathic and kind and compassionate that person is. I want to be like them. So a normal person will manage to implement those things those traits, the good traits in their life, but a narcissist cannot do it. A narcissist cannot do it because they know they need to elevate their nafs first. And to elevate their nafs, they need to have control over their qareen. And it's too strong, it's too powerful. They need to seek help for it. They need to get help. You can't do it on your own. When you're that overpowered by the shaitan, by the satanic spirits, it's very difficult to do that on your own. You need help. And that's why, even the Sahaba, many of them had ruqya done on them, because sometimes the sickness that they got was so bad that they needed external help. It wasn't something that they could do on their own. Sometimes the sickness that you feel, the weakness that you feel is so overpowering, you need someone to come and do ruqya on you and help you. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ needed that ruqya too from Jibreel alayhi salam. So narcissists don't want that help. They're too arrogant to seek help. They're too arrogant to acknowledge that there's something wrong with them. They're not inspired by your empathy and your kindness and your compassion. They're just jealous and envious of it. They don't know what to do with it, so they just destroy it. They burn it. And that's why you never get anything back from the narcissist. Everything you get back in kindness is all fake. It's all transactional because they don't have real empathy. They can't find it. They don't know how to get it because it requires a lot of work for them to elevate from the lowest level of nafs to the highest level of nafs. It requires a lot of work. But they put themselves in that situation because they allowed it to go on for so long. And the people whom they're with don't help either. Codependents are enablers of narcissistic behaviour. And that's why I always tell people, if you're living with a narcissist and you want to help them, stop enabling their behaviour. Because when you enable their abuse, they don't get better. They just descend further and further and further down into the depths of an-nafs al-ammara bis-su'. It's like a special level of hell that they keep descending into because codependents don't help them either. They're enabling it by tolerating it. You want to help the narcissist in your life? Stop tolerating their abuse and put boundaries up. You don't know how to put boundaries up? Book a therapy session. I can help you with that. Even if it's not with me, go to any other Muslim counsellor and inshallah they can try and help you establish those boundaries. So, what are the main 6 things that your Qareen or the narcissist Qareen wants to do to your life? What are these things in order to make you become like them? The first thing, the most important thing, is that they want you to doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want you to doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever something bad happens to you, again, you could be living with any narcissist. It could be a parent, husband, wife, whoever. Something bad happens to you, they might laugh at you. They might say, oh, your luck is so bad. I told you Allah doesn't love you. I told you you're not a good Muslim. I told you your prayers are in vain. I told you you're stupid for getting up for tahajjud. You don't obey me. You don't listen to me. You think Allah's going to accept your prayers. Look at all these bad things happening to you now. All of this is a punishment. All of these bad things that are happening to you, they're a punishment from Allah because you didn't listen to me. You're not obeying your husband. You're not doing this and you're not doing that. You're not a good Muslim. So you start to doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you start to believe that Allah hates you and that Allah's punishing you and that maybe He's right. Maybe the narcissist is right. Maybe I am a bad Muslim. Maybe I am not being a good wife or a good child or a good sister or brother. Maybe I really am a cursed Muslim and I'm destined for hell because so many bad things keep happening to me. My luck is so bad. Why do bad things keep happening to me? And when you question yourself and you get answers from the narcissist, you now start to believe that maybe they could be right. Let me be very obedient. Let me sacrifice my entire life. Let me be a slave to this person because I need to redeem myself. You want me to cut off my family? Fine. Cut off my friends? Fine. You want me to not work anymore? Fine. You want me to, whatever ridiculous demands the narcissist will say you'll do now because you're now desperate to be back in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's good books. So now you ruin your life by being a slave to a narcissist because you've believed them when they say to you, all of this is happening because you didn't obey your father, you didn't obey your mother, you didn't obey your husband, you didn't fulfill your wife's rights. So now you work 10 times harder and it's in the favour of the narcissist. None of it's true. But you believe that you're being spiritually brainwashed, and eventually what will happen, because you'll get more abused in that situation, you'll feel taken advantage of, you will give up so much in your life to please the narcissist. You'll give up your career, you'll give up marriage prospects, you'll give up your friends, your family, your freedom, everything. You'll give up everything to redeem yourself. And at the same time, you're going to really start resenting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you're going to say to yourself, because of Allah, because of you, I'm in this situation now. Because you keep punishing me. Why do you keep punishing me? I pray, I fast, I wear hijab, I go to the mosque, I do this and I do that, I went for Hajj. Why am I being punished? So you start to doubt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the most important mission for the Qareen of the narcissist, for you as the victim. Because once that iman is destroyed, once you start looking at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a tyrannical abuser who just wants to punish you and hates you, it's game over. It's game over. Everything else in your life will go to pot. Because the iman is not there anymore. So you're like, what's the point? I'll take off the hijab, I'll stop praying. What's the point in praying? What's the point in doing anything? God hates me anyway. That is how the narcissist feels about themselves. Now you're feeling like the narcissist. The narcissist has already lost hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's lost hope in himself or herself. They believe they're going to hell. Deep down they believe that's where they're going. Their end is not going to be good. Even if they tell you, I'm going to Jannah, I've got a higher position, I'm more worthy of paradise because, you're not practicing and I'm tolerating your rubbish. Deep down they don't believe it because they know there's something really wrong with them. Narcissists are delusional, but not to that degree. Not to that degree. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them a brain. And believe it or not, narcissists aren't as dumb as you think they are. They are stupid. Oh, trust me, they're all 50 shades of stupid. But they are not as dumb as you think. They know they're not destined for a good place. And that's why they're a train wreck. That's why they're like, well, what's the point? What's the point in being good? What's the point in even trying? I will abuse everyone who gets in my way. And not only those who get in my way, I will look for people to abuse. Because I'm going to hell anyway. The narcissist lives his life like that, or her life like that. You look carefully at the lives of the narcissists around you and you will see these are people who have no hope. They've given up on themselves and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now they want to do it to you. So every time you have a hard time or a calamity hits you and they laugh at you and they say, see, happened again. You're being punished again. I told you. You're not better than me. I told you. Allah doesn't love you. Do you believe me now? Do you believe me now? And then you'll start to believe it. You'll get lazy. Your Qareen will make you lazy now in your worship rituals. Because now you'll keep thinking about what's the point. First step to becoming like a narcissist. You are now entering the spiritual realm of the narcissist and how he or she believes God to be, and that they have no hope in themselves. You've now entered stage 1. Okay? The second mission of the Qareen, of their Qareen, is that you live in fear all the time. And when you live in fear all the time, you are unable to have anything good for yourself. You're unable to find better for yourself. You're unable to exit a toxic situation that you need to exit because you're too scared to. They have conditioned you to believe that if you were to leave or do X, Y, Z or stand up for yourself or not listen to them in this or that there's going to be a horrible consequence for it. They program you to believe that there are consequences for everything that you do that they don't like, that goes against what they want. So you live in a constant state of fear. And again, this is linked to point number one, which is they make you live in a constant state of fear that Allah doesn't love you, that you're being punished all the time. It's a constant state of fear, like you're not in a good place with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's scary for someone who had iman. You're constantly worrying now about your fate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If your husband's not pleased with you, your wife's not pleased with you, your parents are not pleased with you, you live in a state of fear all the time, which is, what's my fate with Allah? I'm going to go to hell. I'm going to get punished. So living in that constant fear all the time doesn't help your iman. It makes you sick. It makes you ill. It makes your health deteriorate in so many different ways. And living in fear keeps you stuck in trauma, keeps you stuck in an abusive cycle. That's what the Qareen wants for you. So it's your Qareen and their Qareen. They don't want you to have better, because when you have better, you have more iman, mental clarity, your mental health is better, your physical health is better. You can move on with your life to do better things. You can find Allah again. You can find yourself again and a better version of yourself. However, when you're stuck in a trauma bond or a toxic situation, low iman, low mental health, low physical health, you've got no motivation to do anything, you're sick of life, you're sick of people, you're sick of the world, you just want to die, that's the perfect place for the Qareen to keep you in. You're not getting better. If they can keep you in that situation in fear for as long as possible, fear of you actually wanting better for yourself, believing it's impossible, believing it's too hard, then they've won. You've allowed both Qareens to win because they're keeping you in a horrible, toxic trauma bond where you will never find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's too hard. You can't find Allah when you are in the midst of dealing with demons, because your focus and your energy is in survival mode. You're now struggling to survive every day. And when you're in survival mode all the time, you don't have time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something I learned in my life, that the more you live in survival mode, the more your energy and focus is going to be on protecting yourself and surviving. And when you're in survival mode, you can't think of anything else. You don't have the free time and the luxury to think about things that you can cultivate and grow and improve in, like a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're stuck in survival mode, you're not thinking about any of that. You're just thinking about how to survive. So that's step number 2. And remember, narcissists always live in fear. They live in fear of being abandoned. They live in fear of never being loved. They live in fear of their fate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they know where they're going. They know they're going to be accountable for everything one day. And that's why I'm telling you, like, narcissists will never be void of empathy and iman 100%. There will be a level of iman in there, a level of empathy that grows from, it's a seed. The level of empathy and iman that they have, all narcissists have, it's like the size of a seed. If they water it, it can grow. Allah does not, out of His own mercy for every one of us, does not remove the seed. The seed is always there, and it's up to us if we feed and water it or not. If we don't, the level of empathy and iman will still remain low. And that's why I'm telling you, every Muslim narcissist out there, or Christian narcissist, Jewish narcissist, they know deep down they're not destined for a good place, because they have that small percentage of iman that tells them that. And they live in that fear as well. They wonder what their fate is going to be. But they're too lazy to make changes. They can't be bothered to make changes, because living as a narcissist is actually working out for them. It's in their favour. It's getting them what they want. So narcissists live in fear. And a lot of their fear comes from childhood traumas and abandonment. They hate it when people abandon them. Even if they plan a discard, if you walk away from them before they discard you, you cause such a massive trauma for that narcissist because you've abandoned him or her and you've triggered a childhood wound because it happened to them when they were children. Maybe their father walked out, maybe their mother walked out on them, abandoned them, and they never forgot about that. So when someone in adulthood abandons them before they're ready to discard, you trigger their childhood wound. You open it again. And they live in that fear of always being abandoned. That's why narcissists always discard you first, because they avoid the feeling of being abandoned. They always have to discard you quickly. So when they feel like you want to leave, they will usually issue that divorce first, quickly, because they have to be the ones who left rather than be the ones who are abandoned, because you always reopen that childhood wound that's still painful for them to feel. So a narcissist will either do their best to keep you trauma bonded in the relationship. Oh, you're not going anywhere. If you leave me, I'm taking the kids. If you leave me, watch how I'm going to ruin your reputation. They'll scare you into staying, and that's again linked to stage 2. The fear of staying, living in fear. And if they can't make you stay, if all the threats are not working, they'll discard you quickly. They'll do anything to not have to face being abandoned and being left like they used to be. And that's why a narcissist will sometimes feel forced to discard you when they know that you're unhappy and you're on the edge of leaving. They will discard you at a time when they don't want to discard you. That's why it's painful for them to leave sometimes. And that's why they hoover you later, because they never wanted to leave in the first place, but they had to issue that discard before you do. A lot of narcissists will issue discards when they don't want to. This will normally happen with the empath, not the codependent. The codependent stays for a very long time. The empath is the one the narcissist fears abandonment from the most. The most. So the narcissist will often walk away or discard before the empath does. But they don't want to walk away from the empath. They're just forced to. And then stage number 3 is that the Qareen needs to make you feel insecure. Again, the narcissist is a very insecure person. The most insecure person you will ever meet in your life is a narcissist. Whether they are overt or covert, deep down they have deep insecurities. The overt narcissist has to brag and brag and brag all the time and show off because they're compensating for something they feel lacks in them. Okay, there's an inferiority complex in there somewhere that they feel they have to overcompensate for. So they live this very lavish lifestyle. They've got the money and the cars and the women and private jets and everything. They're compensating for something. The covert narcissist, the closet narcissist, is so insecure because they hate themselves so much because they feel they're never good enough. They don't feel good enough. And again, that comes from their childhood. They feel so insecure. Especially if they're man-children narcissists. Man-children narcissists who aren't alpha. They're like girls. You know, they just don't know how to be responsible. They don't know how to be men. Trust me when I tell you, they hate that about themselves. Those feminine, beta man-children who are very good looking, but they're like children in adults' bodies. Believe me when I tell you, they hate the way they are. They wish they could be real alpha men. They just don't know how to be. And even if they know how to be, for example, people might say, join this course or, join this alpha masculine male group and, we'll teach you. He doesn't want to because it works in his favour being a man-child and being looked after by feminist women who provide for him and baby him and pamper him. He likes that. So narcissists feel insecure on so many different levels. I'm just giving you this as an example. Insecurity can also be in their looks. Like I said, they can be very good looking. I see this with women a lot. They can be beautiful women, narcissistic but beautiful, but they still don't feel like their beauty is good enough. They compare themselves to other women, other models, and they go and do surgeries. They go and apply heavy filters on all their videos and stuff because they don't feel good enough. That's not someone who's confident. So even if they're beautiful, their insecurity shows, it surfaces. That's why I tell men all the time, don't marry women who are like this. Because I promise you, a woman who has to plaster her Instagram or TikTok account with countless selfies all the time, and she has surgeries done and she has filters on all the time, distorts her entire face, looks completely different. You meet her, she looks completely different in real life. Don't marry that woman. That woman will give you hell. That woman is so insecure, you will be the one propping up her self-esteem every 5 minutes, and it's exhausting because she hasn't got that self-love in her to accept herself for who she is. She hasn't got it. And when you marry someone who's got no self-esteem, whether they're codependent or narcissist, you will live a life of hell because you need to be their prop all the time. You have to be their pillar all the time, but no one's a pillar for you because they can't have you rely on them because their foundation is already crumbly. It's like quicksand. They don't have a foundation. You need to look outside of the marriage, outside of the relationship to find people to lean on. You will never find that solace in your partner. So people who are heavily codependent and narcissistic are to be avoided as marriage partners. Yes, people can heal in marriage. You can work together and heal each other. I'm going to speak about this later in another podcast. But never enter a marriage believing that you're going to be someone's savior or hero and that you're going to heal them. Trust me, it always ends up in disaster, whether they're heavy codependent or narcissistic. So they're insecure, so they need to now make you feel insecure. So they chip away at your self-esteem. They chip away at what you love about yourself. Oh, you think you're so smart. You're a doctor. You're a surgeon. You're a professor. You're a nobody. You're just a nobody. You can't even make a cup of tea properly. You can't even boil an egg. And you want to tell me you're a professor, you're a doctor, you're a surgeon, you're a GP, you're a scientist. And they'll laugh at you. They'll laugh at you because they will pick on petty things to bring you down in the areas that you are strong in. Okay? That's what they'll do. I'll give you an example of something that happened to me back when I was married. And I remember when I was studying for my PhD, I was really, really trying to focus on my thesis. I was going through narcissistic abuse, and focusing on my thesis was the hardest thing in the world to do because he just made it near impossible. He made it near impossible for me to work. So I would have to wait until he goes to work so that I can work on my thesis from home. It was the only time I had peace. The only time. So sometimes when I had a deadline, I would spend a lot longer working on my thesis and my research and reading than other days. So he would come home and I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have cooked something decent. I would have made something very simple like, I don't know, like baguettes or something, like something very simple. I wouldn't have made rice and meat dishes or anything. I didn't have the time because I really had deadlines and I needed to submit certain chapters by certain times. And he would come and he would see that. He'd be like, where's the dinner? Where's the lunch? Where's this? Where's that? And I'd say to him, I didn't have the time. I did not have the time to do it today. I've got to get this thesis done. I've got deadlines. You know what he used to say to me? He used to say to me, it's funny how you prioritize your thesis. He's like, I'll tell you, Mona, I'll tell you this and listen to me carefully. You can have 10 PhDs. Always remember, at the end of the day, you're just a woman. You're just a woman, and your job is to be a housewife. Your job is just to cook and clean and do these things. He's like, I don't care if you have 10 PhDs. It don't mean jack to me. At the end of the day, always remember, you're just a woman. And he used to say this to me all the time. Now, alhamdulillah, I had a good support system at the time. I had great friends and an amazing mum who didn't allow me to be affected by the emotional abuse, because I got it a lot. And he would always attack the things that I was strong in. Like, I had a very successful company at the time. I was doing well with my thesis, alhamdulillah. Like, I was doing well in certain areas of my life, and he would always attack those. This is what narcissists do. So, let's say you are beautiful or handsome. Let's say you're successful in your career. Let's say, you have money. You have a nice lifestyle. They will attack those things to make you feel insecure. They will attack them and they'll say, oh, you think just because you have money, you're someone special? You're a nobody. Oh, you think that you're so good looking? Honestly, there are women at my work who look much better than you. There are men at my workplace who have a better body than you do. You're no one special. You've been working for 2 years on your body at the gym. I haven't seen any change. You're exactly the same as you were last year. That's what they do. They will, chip and chip and chip away at you until those great things about you shrink. Like, even if you do really well in your career, for example, let's just say you're a surgeon and you come home excited and you say, I saved someone's life today. They act like it's not a big deal, or they act like, you haven't done anything special. Like, yeah, clap, 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 well done, good for you. Now please go and make me dinner. That's their attitude. That's what they do. They will belittle you. Until you get to a point where you no longer talk about your achievements with them, because they're now insignificant to you, and now you don't feel good enough. Because the person you love, the person you live with, is chipping away at everything that you do. Like, for example, you might get a bonus at work. You might be, you might work, such long hours. You get a promotion, you get a bonus at work, and you come home to your wife and you tell her, and she says to you, well, good for you. It's about time. It's about time you got that bonus. It's about time you got that promotion. You've been in that job for 10 years. You've only just got it. That's not an achievement. You've only just got your promotion. Finally, they become sarcastic. They become really sarcastic. Or, for example, you might land yourself a good job, a new job, and your wife might laugh at you and say, oh, it's the salary's still not that great. I still can't have the life I want to live. You still can't afford to get me the house that I want to live in. We still can't afford to do this and do that. And they make you feel really rubbish about yourself. Like, they turn something good, something joyous, something happy into something so miserable. They will always be sarcastic. They will always dismiss things to make you feel insecure. They will pick on things, your insecurities, maybe your weight gain or your weight loss. They will pick on your acne. They will pick on hair loss, for example, to make you feel really bad about yourself. They'll compare you to other people to make you feel so insecure. They will gawp and drool over other people to make you feel so insecure. Even if it's not in public, they might do it in movies. You might be watching a movie and they're gawping at the actress or the actor deliberately, so that you notice, so that you feel insecure. They might talk and flirt to other people, with other people to make you feel insecure. So this is what the Qareen wants to do. They want to get you in this place where you're so insecure and you feel exactly like the narcissist feels. They already feel insecure being around someone like you. You're already out of their league. 9 times out of 10, the victim of the narcissist is way out of their league. You're way more good looking. You're way more successful. You're way happier. You've got a better life. You had a better life before you married them. And they're insecure being around you. You make them feel insecure. They are already insecure people, but being with you makes them feel even more insecure. They want what you have. They want your success. They get jealous that, you managed to get a master's or a PhD, or, you managed to become a Reba 3 architect or a chartered accountant, you manage to reach a higher level than they could. They're still on level 1 and you reach level 10. Easily. It's come easily to you. They hate that. So they have to attack everything that they secretly admire about you and wish that they had. They attack it so that you feel the same way they do. Okay? Now, stage 4 is that they want you to avoid the mosque, the deen, associating with good people, associating with good company, your family, supportive friends, your supportive network. They will isolate you from all of that. And the reason why they do that is, again, it just, the lone sheep is easier to target than a sheep in a crowd. So if they can remove you from your support system, it becomes easier for them to abuse you, and it's easier for their Qareen to maintain a low iman within you. Because again, if you're not attending Quran classes, the masjid, Jum'ah prayer, Eid prayer, if you're not associating with people of high iman, you're not going to elevate, so they keep you away from people like that. They find issues with people around you who are good and have a high level of iman because they don't want them to inspire you. So these people are already in that situation. They're not surrounding themselves with good people. Narcissists do not surround themselves with good company. Their company is always weird and bad. Their friends are always the same pack of wolves. So they know that if you were to say to them, I want to go and join Quran classes or classes in the mosque or classes in this Islamic center with these sisters, they're like, I don't think so. Give you an opportunity to have your iman grow? I don't think so. They'll find issues with it. And even if they let you go, they will start to nitpick on things later. You're back late. I don't like what you're wearing. I don't like this. I don't like that. I can't drop you off. You're not taking the bus. You're not driving. I need to be the one who takes you. I need to be the one who drops you off. Oh my God. It's non-stop until they make you sick of it. That's the whole point, by the way. They do it deliberately so that at the end of it, they let you go so that they can tell the world, I let my wife go to the mosque and I let her go to all these lectures and these Muslim, Islamic circles and so on and so forth. They want to show everyone, what an amazing husband I am. But in reality, what they'll do is that they'll make you so sick of going because of all the issues that keep coming up. I hear men say this about the gym. Women want their husbands to have good gym bods, and then they go to the gym and they make their life hell every time they go to the gym. Calling them every 5 minutes. Who's there? Who are you looking at? Other women? What are you doing? Who's with you? Where are you going after? Why don't you pick up your phone? My God. That's what they do until you khalas. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the gym. I will look like Mr. Tumble if I have to. I am not going to the gym anymore. I can't deal with this headache. I can't deal with this stress. I can't deal with it. There are so many men who no longer go to the masjid because of their wives, because their wives have an issue every time they go, or they'll create a fight every time they go to the masjid. So, for example, he's getting ready for Jum'ah prayer or whatever prayer, and she'll cause a fight before he goes. So he goes to the masjid in a bad mood, and then the brothers ask him at the masjid, bro, what's wrong? Why are you in such a bad mood? He doesn't want to talk about it. He's so frustrated. He wants to go to the masjid. He wants to spend a good time with his friends. He wants to do all of these things for himself as well. But the narcissist will always pick a fight before you go and do something good for yourself or something nice for yourself. They don't want you to have a good time. They don't want you to be in the good company of people at the masjid. If you're with a narcissistic woman, you'll notice that. She'll find issues with you doing anything good for yourself, whether it's good for your physical health, mental health, or your spiritual health. They always cause problems and arguments, calling you every 10 minutes. Where are you? What are you doing? Send me a picture of where you are. And then he'll send a picture of the back of the heads of all the men sitting in the khutbah in Jum'ah, just so that she can be reassured he's in Jum'ah prayer. I mean, people are going through this all the time. But they want you to feel that it's just not worth doing these things anymore. I don't want to go to the masjid anymore. I don't want to do anything good for myself anymore. Khalas, forget it. I'll stay at home. It's better than having all this headache. And that's exactly what their Qareen wants. You stay, you isolate yourself, you have no support network, you've got no brothers around you or sisters around you who are propping up your iman, helping you, supporting you with it. You've got no one, nobody, nothing. The same way they feel, they have no one in the world. They believe everyone hates them. They know everyone hates them. They know everyone has an issue with them. And so because they feel so isolated within themselves, they need to make you feel so isolated as well. And they want you to be led astray. They want you to be led astray. They do not want you to follow a straight, good path. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that in the ayah I explained before. He wants to mislead you. He wants to misguide you. Shaitan wants to keep you away from the straight path. He doesn't want you around good people. He doesn't want you going to good places where your health is being improved in different ways. So this is a Qareen's mission. If you find yourself being misled, you're under the influence of either your Qareen or his Qareen or her Qareen or both your Qareens. If you're under the influence of both Qareens, oh, God help you. Only God can get you out of that, I'm telling you. And then point number 5, stage number 5, is that they want you to feel like you're going crazy. They want you to feel insane and abnormal and weird, right? Because that's how they feel about themselves. They believe that they're abnormal, crazy, weird, psychopaths. They know this. They know they're twisted. Trust me, they know they're twisted. And they want you to feel the same. They want you to feel like you're abnormal, that there's something really wrong with you, that you need help. And that's why they tell you, oh, I think you got black magic. I think you're possessed by the jinn. I think you're sick. You must have some serious illness there, bro. You must have some real mental health problems because you need to go to a psychologist. You need to get diagnosed. I think you've got a personality disorder. They want you to believe you're not normal. They want you to believe that you're the crazy one when they know that they have all of these issues, if not some of them. So be careful of that, because this gaslighting into making you feel and believe that you're crazy is really dangerous. As soon as you start believing that you're crazy, abnormal, that everything is wrong with you and not with them, that's when you start believing that you're the narcissist. And when does this happen? When does it happen that you feel like you're the crazy one, that you're the narcissist? When you engage in reactive abuse. What is reactive abuse? Reactive abuse happens over time. So it starts off with someone, it's usually the codependent. Empaths walk away. Codependents will deal with conflict in a civil manner, okay? Usually, in the very beginning. So they would want to communicate, they want to talk, they might send you long text messages to explain how they feel, why you upset them. Just the normal stuff, right? The normal things that people do to communicate hurt, distress, anger. It doesn't work on the narcissist. The narcissist laughs, sarcastic, they mock you. They will dismiss it, they'll ignore you. They won't even read your messages. Nothing changes. They have no respect for your boundaries. No respect whatsoever. You can talk about your problems and what upsets you until the cows come home. Nothing changes with the narcissist. Nothing. Because they don't even know what you're doing there. Why are you even in a relationship with me? You're in a relationship with me and you also want to tell me how to fix up my behaviour when you're the one staying in this circus show, this freak show. I don't think so. Go back to my previous podcast, you'll understand this. You'll understand what I'm talking about. They don't even understand what you're doing with them. So when you put your conditions on them and tell them how to fix the relationship and how to make you happy, they just laugh. Like, why should I? I'm the one who's the criminal here. She's the one staying with me, or he's the one staying with me, and they want me to fix up my behaviour on top of that. Do me a favour? I don't think so. So they laugh at you. They find it hilarious that you choose to stay with a criminal who's clearly shown his true face or her true face. And on top of that, you want them to fix the relationship? Of course they're not going to. Of course they're not going to. Because in their heads, you're the one who wants to be there. If you don't like it, if you're that unhappy, just leave. But they see that you're unable to leave. And so in their heads, they're like, well, if she can't leave, if he can't leave, then why should I fix up anything? I don't need to. Halas. I don't need to fix up anything. She can't leave me. He can't leave me. What incentive do you give them to change or fix anything? Narcissists hate fixing. They hate fixing. They hate that responsibility. Don't give them responsibilities. They hate them. So they just laugh at you when you tell them what's upsetting you and request them to change. They're like, huh? It confuses them. You want me, the criminal, to change? I've already shown you I'm a criminal. What are you doing here? So they don't change. That's why they don't fix up. They disrespect you, they ignore you, dismiss you, laugh at you, because they're like, it's not my problem, it's your problem that you're here. So what happens, this is how it starts. And then the codependent starts to get a bit more manipulative. They start to lie. They start to fake cry a bit. They start to do things, make them jealous. All those manipulations. The codependent starts to take on these toxic traits to get the attention of the narcissist. And they start to take on toxic traits in arguing. So now, if they didn't swear before, if they weren't verbally, vile before, they're going to start that now in stage 2. And now they're acting like the psycho wife or the psycho husband, because their anger is now coming out. Their Qareen is now working on them because they're frustrated. Again, the Qareen will always attack you when your vibrational level is very low. And when your vibrational level is low, it's when you cannot control your negative emotions. You let them run away with you. So here, the Qareen wakes up and he's like, yes, her vibrational level is low. It's come to my level. I can now hop on that. I can hop onto that elevator. And then the Qareen does his work. It takes advantage of you being in that state, irritable, frustrated, angry, resentful, bitter, because the narcissist is just not taking on your concerns. Doesn't care. Doesn't give a flying monkey about you being upset. They really don't care. You're crying at night and they just turn their backs and sleep like it's nothing. They can sleep like a baby when you're crying. They don't care. Because again, in their minds, they're thinking, it's not my problem, it's yours. What are you doing here? What are you doing with someone like me? They will never tell you that, but that's what they're thinking. So in their minds, you deserve it. You deserve to be left in that state because that's your problem to deal with. You chose to be here. So over time, again, the codependent stays. They see all of this behavior, this coldness, this harshness, this brutality, the cruel nature of the narcissist. It gets worse and worse and worse. And the codependent still stays. They still stay because maybe by now they've got children. And the narcissist is just careless, so careless. So the codependent resorts to speaking the same language as the narcissist, for the narcissist to understand them. So what happens when a narcissist, they start to study the narcissist when they're angry, upset, irritable, frustrated, and they see that the narcissist goes into a temper tantrum or swears, uses horrible vile language, throws things, smashes things, threatens suicide, harm themselves, threaten all of that stuff that narcissists do when they're really angry and upset. The codependent's now taking notes. Because now the codependent believes, subconsciously by the way, this is subconscious, that they need to speak the same language as the narcissist in order to be heard and seen. So now when the narcissist angers them or does something to upset them, they now behave like the narcissist when they're upset. So now the codependent victim is acting like the narcissist, going in full temper tantrums, a rage, being vile in their language, verbally abusive. They might even start physically abusing the narcissist. This is called reactive abuse. Reactive abuse is when you're abusing the narcissist as a reaction to their abuse. So this is how you are now responding to their abuse because nothing else worked. Nothing else worked. So you've had to resort to abusing them back in the same way to be heard and seen, to be taken seriously. It's only then does a narcissist actually realise how much they've hurt you. Because it scares a narcissist to actually see a victim in that state of mind. It scares them and they love it at the same time. Because it scares them in the sense that you're gaining power. They don't like that you're gaining power and you're no longer intimidated by the narcissist and you can now behave in the same way as the narcissist. So it scares them that you're now becoming like them. You're not scared of them anymore. You're not scared of the narcissist anymore. You can now freely throw a chair at them and not care about the consequences, not care about hitting their head with it and them dying. The narcissist is now scared of you. They're scared for their health and they're scared for their life. Because I've seen codependents get to that stage where codependents will even murder the narcissist out of rage. How many times have we seen that again in the news where a victim will murder their abuser? Because they get to that stage. And so sometimes a codependent will become so violent in their abuse because out of like years of accumulated abuse, years of accumulated tolerance. So when they finally go into that narc rage, where their Qareen completely takes over, now they've become a narcissist because in that moment of rage, their Qareen has taken over. And they will do things completely out of character. I'm telling you, they might stab the narcissist with a knife. They might do things. So the narcissist here is terrified for their own life now. Or the codependent might even go and attempt suicide. The narcissist will always threaten suicide, by the way. It's always a lie. Narcissists are terrified of death because they know their fate. Trust me when I tell you this. Narcissists are terrified of their fate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're the last people who are going to commit suicide. They don't commit suicide. Codependents commit suicide because they feel that they're the victim and that there's no more hope in life. But the narcissist knows their fate, so they're actually scared of death. No one is more terrified of death than a narcissist. So they will always threaten suicide. They might even do things like they might take a few pills or pretend to take a few pills or slit their wrist or something to scare you, to really scare you and intimidate you. But when a codependent gets to that stage as well, out of anger and frustration, now the narcissist is terrified. Now the narcissist is actually worrying about what happens if this person actually does kill themselves in my house. What am I going to tell the police? Police are going to think I've killed this person. So they want you to stop. They want you to stop. They now cool the situation down immediately because if something happens, if a crime happens, if you commit suicide, if something, or, you both get into a horrible toxic rage and you get into a physical fight and the narcissist loses his cool or her cool and they stab you or do something horrible, they could go to jail for it and they don't want that. Some psychopaths do. That's the difference between a narcissist and a psychopath. Psychopaths won't care. They won't care if they have to spend the next 25 years in prison if they've killed you. This is why it's so, so important for you to understand that being with these people is dangerous for your own well-being. Because narcissists can descend to the level of psychopaths. It can happen, and it has happened. And that's why we have honor killing crimes. And we have murders in our ummah. Like, the recent case of the Lebanese sister, Allah yarhamha, Amira Mughniya, who was the one in Australia, who was murdered by her ex-husband. People start off as narcissists and they can descend to becoming full-blown psychopaths if you're not careful. Being in the company of these people is really dangerous. Really, really dangerous. So narcissists will get to a stage where they will become terrified of the codependent when they reach that stage as well. Because not only do they fear death, they're also worried about having crimes pinned on them. But if they're psychopaths, then they won't care about crimes being pinned on them. They will just be so happy that they killed their victim. So be very careful with that. And then you've also got the side of them that's really happy when they see you act completely out of character. because now they can say to you, they can gaslight you and say to you, you see, you're the narcissist, look at you, you're the abuser. They might put a mirror up to you, they might record you, they might voice record you or take a video of you to show you how crazy you look and how crazy you are. And it's to show you you failed as a human being. You are now like me. Everything that I admired in you before, it's all gone. Now, you and me, we're the same. You and me, we're one. So they get that satisfaction. Their Qareen gets that satisfaction of being able to bring you down to that level, to that low level of behaving like a narcissist now. And once they get you to that low pit, they're no longer interested in you. They're no longer interested in staying with you. And that's when they say, okay, I'm leaving because, I don't want to stay with someone crazy. You're possessed. You need to go and get help. You need a psychiatrist. They will say those things and then leave you. So when a codependent is left discarded by a narcissist at this point in time, where they felt like they really let themselves down, they're a failure in life, they've lost who they are, they've lost everything good about themselves, and now they've turned into a narcissist. This is when they expect the narcissist to stay and support them and actually be there for them. But the narcissist is like, no, this is the best ticket out now, because the narcissist has wanted to be out for a long time, but you've been giving them supply. The supply that you've been giving them expired when you had that narcissistic breakdown, because now they don't want it from another narcissist. Now they see you as another narcissist. And so they need to go and find new supply after that. So when you show them that narcissistic rage, in their heads it's mission accomplished. I've managed to bring them down to my level. I could not up my standards to meet them at their high level when they were better, but I'm going to bring them down to my level. And only then will my mission be complete. So they discard you then. That's when they brutally discard you. They discard you when you're at your worst. At your worst. When you need them. And that's when it makes you feel so much worse. And that's why so many people can't get over the discard, because not only do they feel broken, destroyed, depleted, hopeless, and a failure when the narcissist discards them, they also feel like they've turned into the abuser. They also believe that they're the narcissist. And that's why the narcissist left. Because the narcissist will tell you, you're the abuser, you see. I was right all along. It wasn't me, it was you. And this is my proof. And he'll threaten you with the proof that he or she gathered during those rages. They'll video you. And that's what happened to Johnny Depp. That's what happened to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. She would record him during his episodes of reactive abuse and then told the court that he was abusive, when he was actually reacting to all the gaslighting and everything that she'd done to him to make him go crazy. So they use that against you in court, unfortunately, and that's how they make your life hell. When they get you to the point where you are now engaging in reactive abuse, empaths don't engage in that. Empaths leave way before that. They don't allow themselves to stoop that low. But a codependent ends up falling that low because the narcissist has done such an amazing job in the previous 4 stages of making you lose everything: your health, your iman, your support system, your security. You no longer feel secure about yourself. You feel a failure. All of that they've managed to rob you of. And so by the time you get to this stage, you feel like you need the narcissist. You need them to stay because you need the support, and you feel like you've hit rock bottom and you need them. And that's why it's so devastating for a codependent to be discarded at this stage when they feel absolutely broken. And then the narcissist will quickly run to a new supply. And the new supply will be someone who is the opposite of you. So now that you're broken and devastated, they will go for someone who's still at that good stage in their life, who's healthy and happy and their career is doing well and they've got a good support system, and they start the cycle all over again. People always say, oh, he got a better deal with a new supply. No, he didn't. No, she didn't. They just went for fresh meat, fresh supply again. It's the same cycle they're going to repeat with that person too. This is how you turn into the narcissist when you are with a narcissist. The longer you stay with them, the more likely it is. The more likely it's going to happen. As soon as you cross that boundary of behaving like them in reactive abuse, unfortunately, that's when your Qareen takes a hold of you. And I'm not saying that you can't get out of it. You can get out of it. But it takes a lot of willpower and strength to be able to stand on your feet and have that self-awareness and self-respect after all of that. After all that time. It takes a lot. Sometimes the hardest clients I have to work with are the heavy codependents. They are the hardest clients to work with because they just don't know how to stand up on their own 2 feet. They are completely hopeless, completely broken and completely hopeless. It's hard. It's hard working with them. But you can get there. You can get there if you put the work in. If you follow the exercises, you can get there. But once you've hit that kind of rock bottom, that level of rock bottom, geez, it's hard to get out of that. It's hard to forgive yourself. A lot of codependents do not forgive themselves for allowing themselves to get to that stage. They hate themselves for getting to that stage. And again, self-hate comes from the shaitan. Self-hate comes from the Qareen. It's a part of narcissism. Because the only people who truly hate themselves are narcissists. And they hate themselves because they're so weak. And why are they so weak? Because they can't tame that wild horse. And they hate the empath because they see the empath is so able, more than capable, of training that wild horse, and they can't do it. They feel really weak. That's why they don't like empaths. They hate empaths. They hate being around empaths because empaths remind them of how weak they are. Empaths aren't controlled by their Qareen. Empaths are powerful people. You can still be nice and you can still have boundaries. They hate that because they want to be that, but they don't know how to be that. You know, it's embarrassing. Let's just picture it like a couple of men. They're both on 2 wild horses, and the weak man sees that the stronger man is able to tame his horse. Isn't he going to feel really rubbish about himself? Isn't he going to hate the way he looks, his thin arms, his lack of strength, his lack of discipline? All of that will kick in. All the insecurities arise when they're around empaths. And that's why they like being around codependents. They can tolerate codependents because codependents, a lot of the heavy codependents are borderline narcissists. They don't see, someone great once they've managed to really chip at the self-esteem and self-respect of the codependent. But when they're around a strong empath, a very strong-willed empath who has a high level of iman and willpower and self-discipline, they feel so inadequate. They really feel rubbish about themselves. So they can't be around an empath for very long. They can't. It's not possible for them. They get more depressed being around an empath rather than inspired. In the beginning, they're inspired, but when they actually live with an empath, they realize, I can't do this. I can't keep watching this person live their life because they make me realize that I'm living my life wrong. And that's when they believe even more that they're destined for somewhere bad. Their fate with Allah is going to be bad. The empath, being around an empath reminds them of that. Because they see that good people exist and they're nothing like that. If these good people are promised Jannah, then what am I? What am I promised? Where am I going? So it freaks them out to be around empaths. They don't like it. Don't be offended when narcissists leave you. It's because you remind them of their fate, of where they believe they're going. So if you're not careful, you will turn into someone narcissistic. And if you're not careful, you will also develop the disorder. You will also develop it. And those people who develop the disorder are usually those who have been with a narcissist for a good 15, 20, 25 years. Because they become as manipulative as the narcissist. And because they become as manipulative as the narcissist, they can now handle the narcissist. And that's why they're still together. One of them is now stronger than the other or able to manipulate the other. So I hope that sheds some light on the subject for you as to how all of this can happen, how a narcissist can make you believe that you're a narcissist, how it can be used against you, and how it can completely cripple your self-worth and self-esteem. This is why it takes narc survivors such a long time to heal and recover, because they have to recover from all of the stages of abuse that they went through, especially in who they are and what gives them value. Because the narcissist always made them believe that their career never made them special, their looks never made them special, what they managed to achieve for themselves never made them special. So what makes me special then? They've got to start from scratch. And starting that healing journey from scratch after narc abuse is hard. It's really hard. That's why it takes so long. That's why everyone's talking about narcissism now, because so many people have developed loads of diseases and illnesses as well after dealing with narcissists. So not only are you trying to heal your mental health and your spiritual health, you're also trying to heal your physical health, because you've developed, problems now, health problems. I'm going to do another podcast, inshallah, a separate one about the health problems that you can get from being with a narcissist. So you come out of that relationship with a ton of baggage to heal from, because you chose to stay in that for so long. And they don't feel bad for you, because in their heads they're like, well, he or she stayed. They chose to stay. They saw what I was like 20 years ago. 20 years ago, they saw the monster in me and they chose to stay. They didn't believe that they deserved better for themselves. They didn't believe that they deserved a happier, more loving marriage. They stayed. So they don't feel bad for you. Don't ever expect the narcissist to feel bad for you or guilty or, concerned about you. They don't care. They don't care because they believe it's never their problem. You're the one who chose to be there. So you deserve everything that you got from them. Unfortunately, it's the harsh reality, but that's how they see it, that you deserved it all. Because they're not going to respect someone who doesn't respect themselves or has no value for themselves, who can't stand up for themselves. Narcissists will only respect people who have those boundaries and respect themselves. They don't allow people to cross their red lines. So, it's just food for thought. If you're in this situation, get some help on how to establish strong boundaries so that, inshallah, it doesn't get worse. And you can either manage the situation with stronger boundaries or you decide to leave, depending on how severe the situation is that you're in. Distance is always the best option when you're with family members, and sometimes a divorce is the best option when you're in a marriage. Because if you're already suffering from health problems and you're only in year 3 or 4, trust me, by the time you get to year 10 or year 15, you're not even going to recognize yourself in the mirror. You won't know who you are anymore. So either work on your boundaries or work on your exit plan, because this is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to tolerate. Never. Any sheikh who tells you to tolerate this load of rubbish is a narcissist himself, I'm telling you. They're narcissists themselves, because only they can justify people staying and enjoying abuse. Only a narcissist can do that. Don't listen to any sheikhs who tell you that. Who tell you to fake it, fake happiness because they're your gateway to paradise, or fake happiness because this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for you, to tolerate it because this is your hardship, tolerate it because it's your qadr. All of that is not Islam. It's advice that comes from other narcissists, whether they're into da'wah, whether they're preachers, whether they're scholars, imams. Anyone who gives you that advice is a narcissist, I'm telling you. Because Islam encourages us to stand up against our abusers and remove ourselves from the company of abusers and oppressors. Now, when we talk about this on a global scale, like, world leaders, for example, if they're oppressive, the situation is different because they're powerful and they can, as we've seen, they can kill millions of people if people create an uprising and things like that. So actually in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that it's best to be patient with oppressive rulers so that you save yourselves from more harm. However, when it comes to matters that we have a choice in, like divorce or distancing ourselves from family members or cutting off friends, so-called friends, or moving jobs, moving countries, so that we don't have narcissistic neighbours. When we have a choice in the matter, then that is when we are requested and we are required to do what's best for ourselves and fight against oppression. Because like I said, the more you enable a narcissist to oppress you, the worse he or she is going to get. You're not helping them. The Prophet Muhammad said that you need to stop the oppressor from oppressing by stopping the enabling of it. Stopping the enabling of abuse. Don't allow him or her to abuse you, because you help them and you help yourself. So I'll leave it at that, inshallah. I hope that this podcast has been beneficial. Please do like the video if you found it helpful, and please do share it. Please do share the podcast with anyone who will, inshallah, benefit from it and learn from it. And anyone who needs one-to-one counselling and coaching, just drop me an email, author@themuslimnarcissist.com. If you haven't grabbed a copy of the book yet, please do. It's got all the foundational knowledge in there, and it will help you make sense of all the podcasts as well. And inshallah, that has given you some clear understanding and clarity on how someone empathic can turn into a narcissist the longer you stay with a narcissist. You need to be very aware of that, because it's very important. So I'll leave it at that, inshallah. Thank you so much for listening until now, if you're still with me. And until the next podcast, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.